What's up, everyone? Dan here, Crypto Capital Venture, October 3rd, 2019. A special guest. First time actually having Charlie on the channel. Very excited, very grateful. We're going to talk a few things here. We're going to talk Litecoin Summit. We're obviously going to talk Litecoin. And we're going to talk Litecoin adoption, crypto adoption. Some things I've been wanting to ask Charlie. Charlie, what's up, man? Thank you so much for coming on the channel.
Hey, Dan, thanks for having me. We talked during last year's summit, right? Litecoin Summit.
True. But and that was actually, I guess I should rephrase. This isn't our first time on the channel, but this is like our first video interview. I mean, that was something better, right? Face to face, first Litecoin Summit ever. That was definitely awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on again. A lot happening. It was, you saw some of the notes that I had written down for kind of what to talk about. It's so tough to kind of put it all together. There's so much happening in crypto. There's so much happening in Litecoin specifically. So I want to start with this because this is just me personally speaking to you. I was looking the deeper things of the deeper part of things, and for you with Litecoin, all the stuff that is going on, including Litecoin Summit. I like to just reel it back in, and I want to just from you in terms of Litecoin. You created Litecoin, right? So with all this stuff going on, I like to just put it into perspective. This has to be something like you're incredibly passionate about, and I just kind of wanted to get a sense from you real quick what it means to you, and moving forward, what your hopes are for this thing that you created.
Yeah, as most of you probably know, I kind of created it just for fun, right? Didn't really expect it to become anything. And it's become so successful that, it's kind of like it's take over my life, right? For better or worse. So I'm totally dedicated to it. Basically right now I see Litecoin as something that helps push the kind of the crypto revolution, right? That helps make it happen. So I do whatever I can to kind of help this movement. And I think Litecoin is a good everyday crypto for people to use. It's fast, it's cheap, it's affordable, and it's easy to use. So I see it as kind of helping people get into this space.
Absolutely. And I think it did. I mean, personally, when I started even this channel, Crypto Capital Venture channel, Litecoin is pretty much the doorway I walk through in getting into crypto. So I think it's doing that for so many people all over the place. So that's awesome. So second Litecoin Summit coming right up. A special announcement, by the way, at the end of this video for anybody watching. What are you looking to get out of the Litecoin Summit? And we'll talk some specifics here in a second, but I always think about the Litecoin Summit and what it could potentially mean for the growth of Litecoin, the growth of adoption. Are those just some general things you're looking to get out of it?
I think the summit is always a good chance to kind of reach out to new people in this space, right? For people who aren't really into crypto yet or who just starting to get in, it's a good way to kind of learn more about cryptocurrency, Litecoin and Bitcoin, bringing kind of the whole Litecoin family to one place and celebrate Litecoin and cryptocurrency in general. I think it's good. I think it's going to be a great event. I mean, last year we had a blast. I think this year will be better.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it's going to be bigger and better. So speaking of Litecoin Summit, this past week or so, big news came out. I mean, there's some awesome guests that are going to be there, some amazing speakers. Big news about Ron Paul, and I want to talk about that for a minute. We had a question from Twitter. AB Matthew said, why Ron Paul at the Litecoin Summit? What's his added value and what does he bring to the table?
So I'm a huge fan of Ron Paul for many years now. He's a libertarian. I think he's pretty into cryptocurrency in general, and I like his stance on kind of, I don't know if you guys remember, but he was pushing for auditing the Fed, right? He wrote a book about ending the Fed. He's always against like the Fed just printing money without any without any checks and balances, right? The Fed can do whatever they want with the money supply. And that's kind of what crypto is solving, right? Having a fixed supply, a set schedule that no one can muck with. And I think Ron Paul is kind of on the same page with what most cryptocurrency supporters believe in. So having him speak at the Litecoin Summit, I think will be awesome. I mean, a lot of people are looking forward to it. I think he's a great speaker and a hero, I would say.
Absolutely. So, and that's probably a good point too, because we talk about cryptocurrency catching on, right, on a global scale. And we also look at the government aspect of things. So to have, healthy channels, within government that can, have impact and have a voice, I think is definitely strong. So I think it makes complete sense to have somebody like him at the Litecoin Summit. I think it's a big win. Do you think that, having big, well-known figures like Ron Paul, do you think it helps push crypto forward at events like, the Litecoin Summit?
Sure. I mean, just in general, having well-known figures in this or in the society talking about crypto will bring more people in, right? People will hear about like Ron Paul talking about Bitcoin or Litecoin and just wondering what's the deal with it and do research into it, right? I think right now we need more of that, right? We need more people to be exposed to this new asset class and learn about what's so great about cryptocurrencies and how it's going to change society.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm always thinking about, and I'm going to get to this in a second, but I'm always thinking about how, like, what is going to be that main thing that just sets cryptocurrency on fire? Is it going to be like just these well-known figures just getting on board, and then that kind of just like lights the fire? Is it going to be just a long-term, steady, slow growth? I always wonder about that.
But it's not going to be a steady slow growth, right? It's like ups and downs, right? So,
Yeah.
and most of it is controlled by prices. So when a price spikes, like in 2017, like all the media outlets are talking about Bitcoin, about the price, and that brings more people in. Unfortunately, it brings people in at the high price, and they buy in at the high. But over time, it's going to be higher highs and higher lows, right? So until we get to a point where cryptocurrency is mainstream.
Definitely. That makes sense. Do you think the same thing for things like hash rate, higher highs and higher lows? Because that's been volatile as well if you look at the charts.
Hash rate follows price, right? So it's pretty, there's a clear, consequence of the hash rate is basically a lagging indicator of the price. If the price goes up, the hash rate will go up because the miners are getting paid more and more miners will come to this space because of that.
True. So price going up, and I guess it's no secret, is good for adoption. Speaking of this adoption, this is really something I've been actually wanting to talk to you about. We were in Philly, I forget, maybe 6 months ago or something, and we were talking briefly about about adoption, and I've been struggling personally with this topic, and I think it's good in context to the Litecoin Summit. We look a lot, especially on Twitter, adoption being payments, using it. And I personally have not been there. I've been just accumulating, I do technical analysis. I try and buy the dips as best I can. And I've just been simply just accumulating and storing it away. Personally, I haven't had a big interest in spending it. When I envision a world where I'm spending Litecoin, first off, I do envision that world. I envision it when I've accumulated a lot and my buying power is even stronger, than what it is right now. I don't know if that's wrong or not. I feel like bad sometimes saying that, and I really don't talk about that a lot. But how would you define adoption? Crypto payments, Litecoin payments, or accumulating and holding crypto? Can they go hand in hand in terms of adoption? Can holders be part of the adoption movement?
I actually think holders are also adopting the coin, right? So money is two things, right? It's both a store of value and a means of exchange. So if you're just using it for storing value, you're still like adopting it, right? You're still using it for one of its purposes, which is to store your value, to uh, not lose money, right? You don't want, like fiat currency right now, it's getting inflated away, right? If you store your money in fiat currency when you're a US dollar, over time it's becoming less and less useful, or it's becoming worth less and less. So it's not a good store of value. So that's why people see gold as a good store of value, and Bitcoin and Litecoin are good store of values. So if you're just using that as a store of value, you're still using it, right? It's still good. The way I see it is like we want to get to a future where you're holding your money in cryptocurrency, right, in something that's a good store of value, and you're still able to easily spend that money, right? So gold is a good store of value, but it's not very easy to spend, right? Actually, it's like impossible to spend. You have to sell it for fiat before you can spend it. You can't just pay someone with part of the gold, but you can do that currently today with Bitcoin and Litecoin. Not everywhere, but in some places you can spend it. So I think we want to get to a place where people will store their money in cryptocurrency and easily be able to spend it to buy anything they want. And that's kind of the holy grail, right?
Yeah. Okay. So me being somebody that accumulates, I'm not quite spending it yet. You would consider part of crypto adoption? Because I know
Yeah.
not everybody would. There's a lot of people that are just kind of like, why are you here? Why are you in cryptocurrency if you're not using it, if you're not spending it? And I'm like, I'm invested in it. I'm storing it for long-term use. I feel like that's legitimate.
It's legitimate. And the reason why you're not using it is because it's not easy to use it right now, right? It's a chicken and egg problem where you it's just easier to use a credit card today, right? And you store I mean, that's something that we kind of need to solve over time, right? To make
Yeah.
it easy for people to spend cryptocurrency and also easy for people to accept it. So once we get to that point, then it just becomes money, right? Right now, it's kind of a new asset class. Most people don't treat it as money, but we want to get to a point where it's your money. It's what you have in your wallet. It's what you spend for buying stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's, and tying that into the Litecoin Summit, I think this is another reason why things like the Litecoin Summit are so cool, is because as you have these things progress, you have companies that are coming out with apps that are really starting to at least open the doorway to being able to use crypto. They're there, right? And I think that now the knowledge needs to be gained by the masses, right? And I think events like Litecoin Summit allow for just that interaction from the user to go see what these companies are about, even meeting the leadership team of these companies and seeing what their vision is. I think that's a big part of, this longer term thing of cryptocurrency adoption.
Yeah, for sure.
So I posted on YouTube and Twitter. We got a ton of questions in regards to confidential transactions, privacy issues in terms of Litecoin. And I guess first off, I wanted to ask you, um, would you say that confidential transactions are the only path forward towards fungibility?
That's definitely not the only path forward.
Is
Right?
it the
There's
best path forward?
for Litecoin, I think confidential transactions and Mimblewimble is the best path forward. But I mean, we'll see, right? We're pretty nimble. We can change our minds. But currently, what we're trying to do is what we're looking at. The technology is Mimblewimble with confidential transactions. I think the goal is to make Litecoin just more fungible, right? In the end, if money is not fungible, it's not as useful, right? If I have to figure out which coins to send to you because I'm afraid you're going to track my history or know what I use it for, it's not very good money, right? Money needs to be fungible. One Litecoin should be one Litecoin. It doesn't matter which one you choose, right? So that's what we're working towards, and whatever technology helps us get there, we'll consider it.
Okay. So how do you feel in terms of the privacy issues in context to, the worries behind, if this happens, if there's privacy with Litecoin, we're going to be, Litecoin's going to be delisted. There's going to be issues. Price is going to tank, things of that nature. Those are like some big things I think that worry people.
Um, So yeah, it's definitely something we consider. One thing I almost never consider today is just how things affect price. I think price will do what price does. We're working on what's best for Litecoin. Um, in terms of like exchange delisting, it is a risk, right? We hear these days a lot of exchanges are delisting anonymous coins, privacy coins because of regulation. I think that it's always a constant struggle between kind of the making the coin the best money it can be versus what versus like compliance and regulation, KYC and AML stuff. We had to just kind of try to figure out a best path forward, right? So one thing I'm definitely going to do is reach out to exchanges to talk to them about our plans with Mimblewimble and see what their concerns are. If we can make sure we do it in a way that they're happy with, so that they won't delist Litecoin. I currently don't see that as a high risk, but sometimes you just don't know. So it's better to be prepared. And in the end, I think fungibility is important enough that we want to take a risk, that we need to take this risk. Um, but in the end, we'll see what the community wants, right? And this is a decentralized cryptocurrency after all. If the community doesn't want to take this risk and would rather Litecoin not go forward with this, then really there's not much I can do to push this forward. I can just try to convince community, but I'm still not sure about this yet, right? If Litecoin, if adding Mimblewimble means that Litecoin would be delisted by 90% of exchanges, that's pretty much a deal breaker, right? Because if you can't be able to buy and sell Litecoin, if you can't access it, it's useless how private it is.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think two points just stood out to me are, number one, you want to be proactive in terms of communicating with exchanges and finding out what this would mean, number one. And then number two, maybe even more importantly, and I hope everybody listened to what you said, this is open source community, right? And, I think a lot of times people forget that about, Litecoin Foundation, what the Litecoin Foundation is, what you're trying to do for Litecoin, which is to keep it like that, open source and decentralized. So I definitely appreciate you, in that transparency and how you're approaching the privacy issues. I think it couldn't be any better than doing it that way. So speaking of some questions, well, actually, so the Crypto Rating Council, they basically confirmed Litecoin is not a security. That was pretty good, right? Were you happy to you kind of already knew that, but just to see it put out there?
Yeah. So I mean, it's not really. I mean, it's an independent committee that came together that kind of rated certain coins about whether or not it's a security or not. But I mean, most people already know that Litecoin is just similar to Bitcoin. It's not a security, right? On a scale of security to not a security, it's definitely towards the not a security part. And the Crypto Rating Council confirmed that. So kind of expected, but also I'm kind of it's kind of good news, right? That it's confirmed by an independent party.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it wasn't something that I was worried about, or most people were worried about in the first place anyways.
Yeah. It just looks good, just sitting at the lower end of the spectrum. And then you have some of these like 4s and 5s over there. It's just like, at least it's not over there. All right. So some questions came in on Twitter, YouTube. When I tweeted this the other day, there were so many questions and you were like firing back answers like crazy. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was answering questions that are better just answer with a short tweet than to chat about it.
Like what kind of food you eat at Chipotle.
Yeah.
By the way, like I have a very close food that I get there, but just with chicken, not beef. Not that anybody cares.
That makes it cool. All right.
Yeah. So here we go. I have some questions I want to kind of fire off at you that came in.
Sure.
Solid Twitter says, based on your travels, where's the most Litecoin adoption happening? Is the USA leading, or is it countries in Asia or Europe?
So adoption happens in kind kind of differently in different places. So like in Asia, most of the crypto adoption is in two things. One is as a speculative investment. They're really in it to kind of make money, right? I mean, everyone is, but it's more so in Asia. And the other thing is mining. Mining is pretty big in China specifically. And it still is, right? A lot of the hash rate is in China. A lot of most of the miners are made in China. So that's the thing about Asia. They're big in speculative investment and mining. In the U.S., obviously, as an investment, we're big. It's pretty big here also. But the U.S., more people are trying to see places where they can spend it, right? More merchant adoption in the United States and more usage in terms of spending it as money. And those are two places I mostly visit. So I think like in places like Argentina, we're seeing, I haven't been there myself, but I hear stories about it being, crypto really being used as a store of value because their national currency is being inflated away, going through hyperinflation. That Bitcoin and even US dollar is a great place where people park their money. And so we're seeing cryptocurrency used in Argentina quite a bit for that. And I think Litecoin is also used quite a bit in Argentina. At least last I checked, there's a lot of like Google searches from Argentina for Litecoin, for example.
Okay. So different needs, different wants, and different demographics. It's interesting. Here's Litecoin Pope on Twitter. When he says, when you say, people will use Litecoin and not even know it, could he explain what that will look like in the real world and the effect? I'll leave the last part of the question out. What will that look like in the real world, Charlie?
Yeah, so, I mean, what I was thinking is, so right now, like if you're kind of swiping your credit card, right, you are paying with whatever fiat currency you're doing, and things happen in the background, like the credit card company would get confirmation from the bank that you have the money and stuff like that, right? And so you're just paying for, all you care about is you're paying for something, right? You're buying something, you're paying for food, or you're buying something from a grocery store. You don't really care about what's going on in the background. And I think the same thing could happen in cryptocurrency, where maybe there's in the future where everyone's using a certain cryptocurrency. Maybe it's Bitcoin, maybe it's Litecoin, maybe it's a combination of, right, a mix of it. And all people care about is they're just spending your wealth, your money to buy things. You don't really care about what kind of the payment rail is going on. So for example, today it's, what I can think of is you can spend Bitcoin, you can possibly atomically convert it to Litecoin and send to a merchant and then convert it back. Something like that could happen, right? Or something that we can't even think of today would happen in the future, where it doesn't really matter what cryptocurrency is actually happening in the background.
Yeah, and that's exciting to think about, and so true. There's probably so many things that we're not even thinking about or talking about right now that will be here one day. And, that just shows you how kind of early the space is, even from a technological perspective. I'll ask one more question, and then we can kind of wrap it up here. Rob D on Twitter said, in hindsight, what's the one thing you change about Litecoin if you could go back in time? Supply, block size, time, privacy?
I mean, of course, the tech wasn't ready then, but adding fungibility was one thing that was missing initially, right? The coins weren't fungible. So if the tech was ready back then, it would be something that I would have added to Litecoin back then, so that we don't have to go through this kind of a soft fork way of adding it. Yeah, I think that's one thing that would be different. It's just to make it more fungible.
Definitely makes sense. I could just picture you when you're doing this to start trying to brainstorm the fungibility issue. It'd be interesting how things would have been different. But this is it. This is like that innovation process, right? So it's exciting either way.
Yeah. So, I mean, fungibility wasn't really a concern back then, actually. I mean, people considered Bitcoin to be fairly private, right? Fairly anonymous. it was good enough at that point in time. But over the years, we realized how not fungible it has become. So it's something that we need to improve on.
Yeah. When you created Litecoin, were you thinking ahead and kind of, I mean, did you really think you'll be having a Litecoin summit in Vegas and all these people around the world would be on Twitter going crazy about Bitcoin and Litecoin, and it would be where it is right now, 2019?
Of course not. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, um, back then it was just Bitcoin, right? I'm still a huge supporter of Bitcoin, and it was something that I was playing around with the code base and just creating something for fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So I could sit here and I could talk to you for hours, but that would be probably turn into a boring video for everybody. I want to say this. Some of these things we're talking about, like these are some of the things that'll, organically be talked about Litecoin Summit. These issues addressed even on a deeper level. So if you're watching, first off, if you're thinking about going to Litecoin Summit, go. It's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be awesome. There's a lot of opportunity to learn and grow in this space as well, if that's something that interests you. And I know it is for a lot of people. So Charlie, we were talking about, just kind of sharing this video, getting it out there, reminding people to, get ready for Litecoin Summit coming up. And Litecoin Foundation is going to basically give away 50% off discount codes to 10 people that basically on Twitter, you got to be on Twitter. So go create a Twitter account. You have to you have to retweet this video. And then actually free tickets for one person that likes and retweets this video. So I think it's pretty exciting. Do it, get over there and get yourself over to the Litecoin Summit. You have anything else to add, Charlie?
Yeah, well, I'm really looking forward to the Litecoin Summit. I think it's gonna be awesome. There's gonna be, I mean, as we talked about, like Ron Paul will be there, Anthony Pompliano, most of the Magical Crypto friends will be there. And I think one of the interesting panels we have is kind of people from the sports industry, right? We have Ben Askren and then Casil, seeing their viewpoint about cryptocurrency, how why they support it. I think would be pretty cool, interesting, a very different kind of panel than what we see out there with other cryptocurrency conferences. Yeah, I think it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, and that actually plays into what we were talking about earlier in terms of big names getting behind it. And you have, the sports industry, huge part of that. So you're right. That is actually really exciting, especially in lieu of Miami Dolphins and what's just happened with them. There's so much opportunity right there as well.
Yeah. Also, my brother Bobby is going to be there. He's going to be actually giving away his all attendees will get a Litecoin ballet card, which will be very cool.
Yeah, I need to get my hands on one of those. I really like what he's doing there. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, you'll get one at the summit. So.
Okay, cool. Well, listen, I appreciate it. I wanted to try and keep this around a half hour. Thank you so much. If you're here, get on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, share this video. And we're looking forward to seeing you over there at the Litecoin Summit. Charlie, thank you so much. I really, truly appreciate you coming by, and God bless you, man.
Sure. Thanks for supporting Litecoin.
Of course.